My name is Danielle Matthews. I am a Platinum Executive with ASEA. I live in the US, in Colorado, and it is an absolute honor to be able to have a discussion this morning with Dr. Gary Samuelson. For those of you that have not had the pleasure of meeting him, he is an atomic medical physicist from the University of Utah. That's where he studied. He is an expert in nanotechnology. In fact, he has been in this field for about 25 years. So he comes with a lot of expertise, experience, and knowledge. Honestly, I would absolutely love for you to take us back to the beginning and share with us how you and Redux met and how this journey really all started.
I'm glad you call it a journey, because it really has been an incredible journey throughout this whole. Well, I'm a scientist. I'm an atomic medical physicist, and I had the opportunity to go through school and study medicine in the human body, and also physics and atomic physics. And so when I was approached, this was about 2006. There was a biomedical company, there's a biotech company that had developed a technology, or had developed a substance. They didn't exactly know what it was or what it did, but it was doing amazing things. So Redux actually at that time was my neighbor. And so he just lived a few blocks up, and we knew his daughter. And his daughter just asked me, would you meet with my father? And he needs a scientist. He needs an atomic physicist. I said, oh, well, okay. What is he? He's a businessman. I said, well, not really interested in talking to a businessman. Anyway, my wife actually dialed the number and held it to my ear, because she is interested in such things. And so we went to lunch. And it turned out that he said, I have this new technology. A biotech company has been investigating it for about 16 years now. And there's millions of dollars of studies, and there's a lot of interesting things that's on this. People really don't know what it is, but it's made out of salt and water. As soon as he said that, I kind of said, well, salt and water has been around for a long time. Our planet is covered with it. I'm sure that everything we possibly can know about salt and water has already been discovered. But he convinced me to take a look at the science, to take a look at the research. And so I brought the research home, started to look at the research, and realized that they had processed this salt and water to produce some of the most bioactive and potent molecules that exist in nature, in life. I said, oh my goodness, I'm a little bit concerned, because now we have oxidants and free radicals, and we have all sorts of things that we felt in times past, or as a scientist, I knew they were very bioactive. They did a lot of things inside the body, so we were concerned. And when I looked through these studies, they're very well done, studies on cells, where we'd expose cells and look at genetic mutations, for example, and studies on animals that would look at high doses of this in animal models, and all sorts of studies. And there was not one indication of toxicity in any amount. Even when 20% of our blood of the animal was replaced, I said, how in the world does this work? All of the components that it has were oxidative components, such as hydrogen peroxide and superoxide and ozone and other things that we knew caused oxidative stress and inflammation. I mean, that was very, very common knowledge. So what is so special about this new combination of reactive oxygen species that actually has absolutely no toxic effect? And so I agreed with Redux. I said, this is absolutely fascinating. If it does anything, in fact, anything that we think it might do in the body, it will be incredible. So we started to look at it. Roberta said, okay, let's go. And started to look at it. And through my research, I hooked up with a burgeoning field of research called redox signaling. And it was brand new. This was back in 2007, not very many people knew about. The major concern was, oxidants are bad, and these antioxidants are heroes and stuff like that was the whole, scientific understanding. And now we're starting to say that, well, these oxidants actually perform very vital signaling roles. Is this what you want to hear, Danielle?
Absolutely. Please keep going.
Okay, great. Very vital signaling roles in the body. And there's just starting to investigate what these reactive oxygen species do inside the body to signal the healing of tissue. And so I went through hundreds of papers on this and realized that we probably have in our hands the most important discovery in medicine that has ever been made, because it's absolutely non-toxic and it's extremely bioactive in the processes and the pathways, we call them, the pathways of healing. So we can stimulate the body to detect damaged tissue, heal damaged tissue, and such. And so I was very excited about this, and I said, Virtus, we have something very special here. And Virtus said, oh yeah, I know. And he said, well, Gary, will you help us figure it out? And so I said, okay, this had already gotten my attention. So we went to some of the early studies we went to, of course, were for me. I wanted to find if it was in truth as non-toxic as all these studies said. So I don't want to hurt anyone, so we're going to send it off to a national laboratory in Washington State. And we did so, and they found that it's absolutely safe in every instance. It did not at all stimulate inflammation, oxidative stress, and in fact, it actually helped the antioxidants almost 10 times as much antioxidant potential when they were exposed to this substance. So now it's activating antioxidants. And he said, well, that's kind of strange. It's causing absolutely no inflammation, and it's activating antioxidants. For those of you who know what NRF2 is, through an NRF2 channel, it's turning on this antioxidant defense response without activating the inflammatory response, which is very normal, which is actually never seen that before. I said, okay, well, that's very interesting. And so I was completely convinced at this point that it was non-toxic, that it wasn't going to hurt anybody. So I asked him, well, what does it do? And he said, well, obviously it activates the antioxidants and expresses NRF2. So I said, well, let's look at that. And they did. And they found a very marked increase in this NRF2 marker, in the oxidative response, and in the potency of the antioxidants when this was added to cell cultures. We used endothelial, small lung endothelial cells, which are very sensitive to toxins. In fact, interestingly enough, we also used hydrogen peroxide as a positive control to induce oxidative stress. And it's interesting because, this redox signaling substance had hydrogen peroxide in there, and it had, hypochlorites and all of these things that we thought would cause an inflammatory response, didn't. So again, there's a lot of questions. This is an interesting journey. So I said, well, okay, it does absolutely nothing as far as toxicity and inflammation. And it's starting to turn on the pathways for cellular healing and detection and response of the damaged tissue. Because normally, can I just go into the science a little bit?
Of course you can. Absolutely.
Okay, all right. Normally what happens inside a body is when you get damage for whatever reason, toxins, a cut, physical damage, the cells send out these messengers now, as we understand them, called redox signaling messengers. And the condition is oxidative stress. So everywhere where there is damage, oxidative stress starts to build up. They thought, well, that's a bad thing because these things can cause stress. The thing is that the oxidants and these redox signaling messengers are pushing the genetic buttons that are saying there's something wrong here. So they're produced by mitochondria, these molecules. And I like to use the example of a house. If we're in a house, the mitochondria are the fireplaces. They're the furnaces. They use the fuel and then produce the energy, but they also produce smoke and free radicals and stuff that's not too good for us, right? Not too good for the house. But as long as it's kept controlled and beautifully controlled in the fireplace, for example, it's fine. As soon as it gets uncontrolled and gets out of the fireplace, then there's a problem. So the cells that have problems actually are on fire. They have oxidative stress, and that pushes the genetic buttons to put out the fire, to repair the cells, or if the cells cannot be repaired, to actually take apart the cells. And then they're replaced by division of healthy normal cells. Very much like a house when it's burned down is replaced, by constructing a new house. And so this is the secret of healing on a cellular level. And we were right in on the very basis of how cells healed themselves, and it was non-toxic. So we could stimulate healing without stimulating inflammation, and that was just incredible. And so now I went back to Virtus and I said, hey, this new field of redox signaling has now shown that we probably have now, and I really believe it, and I believe it to this day, one of the most important medical discoveries that will be on this planet, because we can control the process of healing in a non-toxic way, and so you can imagine, because almost every condition that I had ever dealt with in medical science dealt with damaged tissue, diabetes, damaged pancreas cells from high sugar levels. In fact, high sugar levels cause oxidative stress and damage throughout all of the cardiovascular system. And, all of these problems that we have are actually caused. Now, of course, you're going to say, as Danielle, that we're not claiming, of course, any scientific basis that this is a healing any disease, but it is a tool. It's a tool that the body uses to help heal itself. And so it's very important. So whenever a cell gets damaged, it builds up oxidative stress. It's like the fire smoke signals. In come all of the systems, the immune system, and everything to take care of the problem. Maybe the cell dies and then is replaced, and that is a very good thing. You don't want a damaged cell in your body that's under stress to the point where it can't function. In fact, many medical problems that we have deal with our own damaged cells that can't be repaired. So everyone just went on, and the rabbit hole got deeper and deeper and deeper, and finally Virtus said, well, why don't you help us to educate people about this? So I went to conferences and I learned about it, and I started educating people. And that was my role as far as the development of redox signaling. I'm sorry I went on a little bit long there, Danielle, but you asked for it.
I did. I absolutely did. So let me ask you this. As a scientist, it must have been super exciting to come across something like this and explore it. And you said something at the beginning that this was a brand new field. I think you said a burgeoning field of redox signaling. And I'm curious, that was back in 2007.
Yes.
So now fast forward, we're in 2021. You've been going to different conferences. I believe there's an annual redox conference now that's held. Can you just kind of speak to where the field of redox signaling is now and where you feel it might be going in the future?
Okay, this is great stuff. Thank you, Danielle. Yeah, there are several actual conferences and groups that are dealing with redox signaling. One is called Oxidative Medicine. It deals like hyperbaric chambers and ozone and PEMF, which is and infrared light therapies and stuff like that, which all interact with this redox signaling. They're all oxidative things that help the body to heal itself and to regenerate itself. So medicine now, there are large medical groups that are using in their practice oxidative therapies. So it's very interesting. So those groups, are one. This group that you're talking about in Paris actually is a group of research scientists, and they're about 400 or 500 strong now. And all they do every day is they go into the laboratory and discover what these redox signaling molecules are doing, what these redox molecules, the reactive oxygen species, are doing to stimulate healing in the cardiovascular system, in the nervous system, how they interact with nutritional therapies. Did you know that nutrients and hydration and such are very, very important for the correct functioning of the cells, along with the redox signaling. So you have redox signaling, which is like the communication system that helps the cell to detect, repair, replace, and build itself, right? But then of course you can't build anything without materials and supplies, and that's where nutrition comes in. And things like blueberries and antioxidants and other things have these redox signaling capacities in there to actually tune this system, as well as to build the cells. And so I can hardly even list off the different things, but most of them are centered around this oxidative stress response. What happens to a cell when it's under oxidative stress? And they go into very wonderful detail. Many of you wouldn't understand this. Even the title of the conference is about 10 words long. So you have to learn the language, but these individual cellular processes that are involved with the redox signaling pathways, and they're going into them in depth now. Very, very exciting. Yes.
Yeah, I imagine that is really exciting. And I think you're correct. For some of us, it probably goes straight over our heads what you're sharing. And for others, I'm sure that they are leaning in and learning a lot from you. But I'd love to hear in layman's terms, if someone were to ask you, look, Dr. Samuelson, what are redox molecules? What are they actually going to do for my body? If I can add more in.
Okay.
I can supplement.
Great. Well, that's actually something that is important to understand. What role do they have? Well, we already said they help detection, repair, and replacement of tissue, of damaged tissue. Okay. Now, the problem that we have is that our mitochondria, as we age, or as we go through periods where we're stressed or highly stressed, either on an emotional level, which is oxidative stress, or a physical level, or for whatever reason, the mitochondria that produce these redox molecules are decrease their potential, their efficiency. So now you don't have enough. Sort of like I say it's like sort of like your cell phone, and the reception bars on your cell phone are going down. You're not having as much efficient communication. And so in the past, there's nothing that you could do about it. Your mitochondria, they degenerated, your cells started to get damaged, you aged. If you got a high stress situation, then either it would kill you or repair you. It kills you or makes you stronger, sort of thing. And there's nothing that we could do about it. But now, for the first time, we have something that can replace the deficient redox molecules, artificially. And I thought, well, how does it get into us? How does it absorb? And that's the magic. That's what I dealt with for many years. How do we stabilize these complexes so that they can be absorbed and they survive our system until they're needed, And so that was my work. So anyway, yeah, we learned a lot about just those processes. Go ahead, Danielle.
Well, I wanted to say this. We know that ASEA does not cure, heal, treat, or prevent anything. And I want to make sure that people realize, what you're sharing with us today. You're talking in general a lot about just the field of redox signaling. And However, we know that ASEA is the only place around the world where we have active redox signaling molecules suspended in a saline solution that we can, ingest and take in. And a common question that I hear, in my 6+ years of working with this is, okay, so what can supplementing with redox do for X condition? And I'm just curious to have your perspective on, I'm sure you've been asked this a million times in a million different ways and every condition you can think of. And I'm just curious what you tell people when they ask you that.
Well, I have a hard time because of course, regulatory things don't allow me, as well as legal restrictions on my own profession, don't allow me to talk about diseases. But they do allow me to talk about what we call structure function or biology. So what I say is basically to the people, does your condition involve a cell? Does your condition involve a damaged cell? Do you think that damaged cell then would be benefited if you gave it the tools to repair itself? and then that pretty much is what I mentioned to the people.
It's beautiful, and it's so basic, right? And I also hear people saying, well, how much would my body benefit from? Or is there like a max amount where if I take that, it's too much? I know you spoke a lot about your initial concerns of the safety, and if you could just address that a bit more specifically.
Yeah, well, we've proven absolutely definitively that there is no maximum amount that you can take as far as the safety is concerned for normal, healthy people. Now, what it does is activates glutathione and superoxide dismutase, which also throws out a lot of toxins. So if you have a lot of toxins in your system, and I've dealt with soldiers that have come home from the war, where they've been exposed to toxins and mold, black mold and things like that. If you have a lot of that in your environment, it'll start trying to throw this out into your blood. And so that is really the only safety issue that I can see. And there's another safety issue too. It helps to enhance the reception of hormones such as insulin. So if you're taking insulin and then you take the redox molecules, you need to be careful that you don't take too much. Insulin along with that, because it enhances the effect. So you need to be careful about the detox sort of things. But once you've gone through the detox and your body, your liver, your kidneys, everything is functioning correctly to detox your body, especially your intestines, then there's no limit. And the excess amount is naturally in your biology turned back into salt and water because it's perfectly balanced. It goes from salt and water to these reactive oxygen species. It goes from reactive oxygen species back into salt and water. They just reverse it, and it does absolutely nothing. Salt water actually is what they put in your IVs and stuff that help your body, to help hydrate your body. So it's absolutely non-toxic that way.
Yeah. And I think it's wonderful when people actually are detoxing. I tell them, like, this is exciting. Your body is cleansing. These redox molecules are supporting your system in a big, big way, and we're getting stuff out that shouldn't be there. So really interesting perspective. And I thank you for that. And, we now have the ability to put these redox molecules in a topical form. And I wondered if you could just give us some insight on being able to go from the liquid to the topical and, what you see that doing for the skin.
Okay, well, redox signaling is effective everywhere in the body, every single cell, on the skin, inside. So where it touches, it heals, basically. Where it touches, it helps to the body to, stimulate healing. I wanted to tell you a story. One of my first experiences was a topical, when my wife was cutting vegetables. Many of you heard this before, and she cut her finger. It was a deep cut. She couldn't get it to stop bleeding, and it was hurting her. And I thought, oh, this is the time I can test it out, and put a little bit of the redox substance in a cup. Had her put her finger in it, and immediately the pain stopped, the inflammation stopped, and the bleeding stopped. And I thought, oh my goodness, it's doing what we think it should be doing. But we saw, healing processes in seconds that normally take minutes. And then throughout the day, I'd take a look at it. It was, of course, antimicrobial, so it also sterilized the wound, and it didn't have any problem. So she took it out and started cutting vegetables again. In a couple of hours, it had completely healed over. And then the next day, I couldn't even see a scar. So the thing is, I'd seen healing in seconds. It usually takes minutes, and then healings in hours that usually take days. So I at that point, I knew that it was true. What we had actually thought might happen as far as stimulating a healing response was indeed happening. So it works on the skin. And so we said, okay, well, there are some situations where if you drink it, it goes into the internal organs. But if you want it to work on your skin, you need a gel. So we had to look through all sorts of substances that would not degrade these molecules. They're stabilized. It took me a year to figure out how to stabilize them and produce them in mass. Okay, so there's no way that we wanted to undo that. What we wanted to do is put these same molecules in a gel that could be applied topically so that they stay there. And we found that this substance, it's a natural clay that actually, like the mushy stuff in clay, that actually holds onto the water and allows it to absorb into the body. And that's what we used, and that's where the Renewed 28 came. And that was not just my work, by the way. There's people in the laboratory that were going through iteration after iteration to make sure that we found something. Yeah.
Wonderful. Well, I'm kind of curious. Is there anything over the last, gosh, it's been a decade plus that you've been involved with this? What has surprised you the most in the last decade in working with this?
I have to admit that I'm absolutely inspired by the human impact that it's had. The first thing is we said we need to get this out to everybody on the planet, especially people who are suffering with a lot of cell damage, and that can be helped. But I was not prepared for what I was about to experience. Now we heard testimonial after testimonial after testimonial came in. And for Vertus and I, that completely changed our perspective on it. Now, instead of just being a scientific achievement, and for him being a business achievement, it was a mission and a purpose. And that came out in the early times, when we had conventions and stuff. That came out when we were actually able to get up on and tell people about this. And it was this is really almost, for me, I don't know, how would the founding fathers of the United States think, would happen when we're putting a system out there that works, and that was kind of what we felt like. Of course, not exactly to that scale, but that was the feeling that we had. We were doing something very significant. I took all of my nanotechnology work and my scientific work and I put it aside. I said, I'm going to work on this now for the unforeseen future. And finally now, after 15 years, I'm getting back into the nanotech. But yeah.
I can understand as a scientist wanting to get back to more science and see what else is out there. I mean, you had said at the beginning, everything we know about salt and water is already known. And yet here we have this incredible discovery that is impacting thousands of lives. I mean, mine included. So I'm incredibly grateful, and I think I could speak for the ASEA family that we really appreciate all the work and dedication and time that you put into this and creating it into what it has become. And now it's running beyond, I think, any of our wildest dreams. And I guess my last question for you is, looking into the future, like generations to come, do you feel that this will be, like, what is the impact that you see this having, in the next generation and generations beyond, when you have people with, high levels of redox molecules in their system? If you can speak to that.
Yes, I think it is the most significant, again, discovery that we will see in the next 100 years. in medical science. Now, I'm not just talking about, this specific blend, but redox signaling itself, the science of redox signaling, is going to spearhead, I believe, some of the greatest discoveries in science that we will ever see. Because it deals with healing and regeneration of tissue. For example, stem cells that we've heard about, they use redox signaling channels to detect damage, to attach, and to help repair. That, and if we can do anything in that field to enhance the action of stem cells, that's incredible. So that would be new research. That's something that I would be very tempted to do if I had a chance. But other people are, of course. There are a lot of people that are doing this, and now it's catching on. Sort of like nanotechnology. I said nanotech is going to be big. This was, in the 2000 year 2000 or something. And now we're in 2020, and nanotech is becoming a great big field. This is one of the most important tools in the toolbox that we will have ever, I think, in medical science. Can I just mention a few things?
Yeah, I had one other question that I thought of when you said that, if you don't mind.
No, go ahead.
Why do you feel that there's not others operating in this space? Like, how is it that we are decade plus into this and still pretty alone on the board when it comes to a product that can operate in this space? I'm kind of curious your perspective on that.
Well, I think it's providence, really. It's luck. Whoever thought that we could actually stabilize this stuff in a form that would be available, non-toxic to every cell? That's just like the dream. Never happens. And so, but we were very, very lucky. I was very fortunate to be involved at the beginning of this. And so the answer is, it's very difficult to stabilize. It's hard to be able to use this, but we're not the only player in the game now. A lot of people are coming out. The antioxidant people at the very beginning understood how antioxidants like vitamin C and quercetin and some of these really powerful antioxidants that we're seeing now, how they help to reduce oxidative stress and inflammation and everything like that. Well, that's just part of the equation, the same equation inside the body. It's how the body works. And so it's a progressive step. I wish that scientists, and this is what I've been working with, would understand what we have in our hands. But that takes many years. Even penicillin took about 20 years to catch hold. So it takes many years and a lot of science and a lot of interest before people even start to realize, what they have in their hands. And I think it'll happen. I'm sure it'll happen in my lifetime.
Thank you for that. And please go ahead. Whatever else you'd like to share, we'd love to hear.
Oh, well, here are some of the things that absolutely, completely convinced me. People started to take this for different conditions, and scars started disappearing that they'd had for 20 years. Conditions like injuries that they'd had started to heal. And then people that had severe conditions, skin conditions, like burns or such, and they would put this on, and hair would even start to grow back. And it would take care of inflammation, and healing would be accelerated in many of these cases. And I said, we have to get this into every single burn clinic that exists in the world. So I was kind of on a mission that way. But when you see the effect that it can have on the lives of people, that's where it is. Education, letting people be educated about what the possibilities are and what they have in their hands. Education as far as hydration, nutrition, exercise, sleep, and other things are also extremely important in the equation, because without all of these factors, you're not going to have a healthy living cell. And so it's very important. Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, with that, I just want to say thank you so much for giving us your time this morning. The bottom of my heart, this technology changed my life after an accident that I was not repairing from. And I'm so grateful that this came into my world, and that you were divinely guided into this space and live down the street from Virtus. It's just, you can't make this kind of thing up. So it was really fun to hear your perspective, get a little bit more of the history of this. And I hope you have a beautiful day, and thank you for everything.
Well, thank you, Danielle, and thank you everyone for, my friends out there that I haven't seen for a while. Thanks for the opportunity.
Absolutely. Everyone go out there and have a wonderful day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.